Today's guest is someone who speaks right to the heart of the mission. Pam Roy is a writer, speaker, and visionary thought leader, reimagining education, parenting, and purpose in the modern world. She's the author of Parenting from the Passenger Seat and Viktor Frankl, The Search for Meaning, 21 Reflections on Living Life with Purpose, both deeply reflective guides to helping our children and ourselves live more connected and purposeful lives. Pam is also a partner at the Viktor Frankl Institute of America, a champion of the u-bound learning model, and involved in film productions that address the mental health crisis. Whether she's writing, speaking, or creating new frameworks for the future of learning, her work is always grounded in one essential question: what gives life meaning? Today, we're diving into identity, legacy, and how women, especially mothers, can help the next generation thrive with purpose. Welcome, my friend Pam. It's so nice to have you on the show. Thank you for coming on.
I am so excited to be here, and I'm excited to talk with you about all these wonderful subjects, what we're seeing in the world, because I read your book, and I know that there's a lot of things that we have in common regarding our missions, our own personal experiences, and awakening to our responsibility to do something about that. So I am equally thrilled to be here with you.
Thank you so much. Well, let's start with something close to your heart, which is meaning. Why is meaning such a crucial foundation, especially in parenting and education?
I really didn't understand the concept of meaning for probably the first part of my life. I'm 65. I love being 65. I love getting older, just to make a note of that for all of the ladies out there who might be worried about that it really, it gets better and better and better. But really, once I read Viktor Frankl and I understood what meaning, how he defined meaning as the primary motivation for living, and also a key factor in mental health and wellness, it resonated so strongly. It became a central theme of everything I do and, you know, what I want to put out in the world. So, and he really looked at meaning not as, oh, how does this make me feel good? It was about, what am I, my unique being in this specific situation, supposed to contribute? And we know it. We have this inner knowing. We just don't always listen to it. So that became my mission, is to talk about the ways we can find meaning and how important meaning is to our lives. I mean, it's like oxygen. I mean, when we don't have it, we know it. And this is a time where, unfortunately, in our mechanistic society, meaning is not always front and center.
No, it's so true. It really is. Once you have it, you know you have it. And when you don't have it, you definitely know you don't have it. But it is kind of one of those things it needs to be more intentional. People need to be intentional about seeking meaning in their life, right? So
Yes.
I love that. I think that's very important. And so you've written about parenting from the passenger seat. Could you unpack the idea for our listeners, especially the moms who feel the pressure to control the wheel?
Yes, and it's a natural, normal feeling of needing in this out of control world to ensure that our children are safe and secure for the future. The challenge is that's impossible. And the future is unknown and unknowable, and we are all co-creating it as we move moment to moment. So our need to control and help our children is actually detrimental to them listening to themselves and helping themselves. Again, we have them for maybe 21 years, maybe 18, whatever it is, or longer in today's age. And it's about really preparing them for the transitions in life, because that is where we are. We're in constant transition, where it's in work, whether it's personal pandemics happen all the time, guilt, suffering, and death. So Viktor Frankl, when he did his medical practice and developed his theory, he was working with suicidal patients. So he was a psychiatrist from the early 1900s, born in 1905 in Vienna, Austria. And he corresponded with Sigmund Freud, so psychology was just being born, and he became the student of Alfred Adler, another prominent psychologist. And one was saying that pleasure is our primary motivation. Another was saying, no, we want power. And he's like, no, there's something more. We are meant. There is something for us to do, and we need to listen to that and respond to it. Life is asking us. I wanted to write a book about my own journey through the parenting process. I have 3 daughters who are now 24, 26, and 28 out in the world. And I grew up at a time when it was very much like it didn't matter what other kids in high school were doing. Some would go to work, some would go to college. It wasn't college, everybody has to go down this single trajectory. But I followed, my dad was a first generation American, so was my mom, and he was very much, no, you got to go in the business world and do all these things. And I was like, okay, that's what, so got good grades, got a business major, went out into the workforce, and became a partner when I was 27, was very successful young. And then about 30, my stomach wasn't feeling so good. I'm like, what is going on? I always wanted to be a mom, but I was following the achievements and the accolades. I had the car, I had the condo, I had the management position, check, check, check. And yet, what I was truly meant for didn't happen until I got married, stepped off that trajectory, which I actually quit my job without another job. I mean, I took 3 months. I gave my partners notice to say, look, I don't know what I'm doing, but I can't do this anymore. And I just kind of trusted life, which ever since I've learned to jump off that cliff, trust it's going to show me the way. And every time it always has. So I had these experiences prior to raising my daughters, and the 40-year gap between my education and theirs, whoa, it just highlighted this mechanistic, put your kid on a conveyor belt, we'll handle it, we'll get them a good job, and as soon as they get a good job and have money, they're going to be set for life. And I knew that that is not what life is about. It's about the ongoing relational connections. We've developed a society of systems, which I talk about in the book. We're, got the education system, the healthcare system, or the sick care system, depending on how you want to look at it, the criminal justice system, or not just, whatever you want to say. We have these systems that we feed people into, so we don't have to deal with it in our communities. And so these are transactional. We now have become a means to an end. We're a number when we walk in those doors. We are not a unique individual with responsibility for the lives we've been given and listening to our conscience about ways that we can contribute. And I just really wanted to write a book about how to incorporate meaning and purpose into lives, and that there's more than academic achievement or checking the boxes. And this well. Your book is fantastic with telling the same story, so I feel like I'm telling you the same story that that you already wrote about, was this same thing that you discovered. And in many ways, we've lost ourselves to this mechanistic world that demands so much of us as the nurturers of society. Women and our very intuitive, nurturing sense. Gabor Mate, in his book, The Myth of Normal, wrote about 75,000 women with breast cancer that he studied. And the single common denominator he found was they gave up too much of themselves. That's where do we nurture? In our breasts. And so I was very concerned with how much we're being called to feed this mechanistic world that's very transactional when we humans are relational. It is not how we live. We are meant to engage with the world. We're meant to engage with each other. We can listen to our conscience to guide us. We can trust it and we can act on it. Listen, trust, act, repeat. That's what meaning is. It's following the pull, moment to moment, of what we intuitively understand. But when we're so busy checking boxes of what others are telling us we're supposed to do, or trying to conform so that we don't look so different. I put my kids in alternative education when they were young. And so I was that mom that felt so strongly that everyone looked at saying, who's she? And greatest decision of my life. My kid, how come we couldn't do all this soccer? I'm sorry. You could raise your kids how you want, but I felt so strongly that their relationships with each other within our family, with the grandparents, with volunteering in the community, with having downtime to just sleep and rest and play was critical. And I really did my best to protect that, and imperfectly. I will just say I was constantly getting caught in what am I doing, and having those moments, as you point out in your book, where you suddenly realize, whoa, this is me. This is this moment where I suddenly had to look at myself and say, how am I contributing to this? And do I really have control over another human being's life? Viktor Frankl talked a lot about the multidimensionality of humans. We're not just a mind and a body. We can't be programmed or trained. We have a spiritual dimension. And he distinguished this he called it the noetic dimension to distinguish it from anything religious. Mm-hmm. That was that, even though there's a greater creator and ultimate meaning and all of that, it's really our spirit, our guide that we know. It's our conscience that's tapping into something we don't even understand, but it plays a powerful role. And when we don't listen to it, it can manifest in physical and emotional issues. So there I was with the girls and the passenger from the parenting. Can I talk? No. Parenting from the passenger seat popped into my head one day, because we can never drive another person's life, another human spirit. We can't. No. We don't have that power. And even if it's your mother or your brother or your spouse or your sister, doesn't matter. Your children. We are each our own being. So we can only ride alongside and do our best to guide and to love. But as you know with your children, and as I've certainly know with mine, and especially now that they're out in the world, they do things and you're like, maybe that's not so good. No, I'm doing it, Mom. Like, okay. So I had to look at myself and say, what am I doing? Because the only thing I can really do is model what it means to live a meaningful life and to express myself out in the world in a way that is authentic to myself, and hope that that is something that inspires my children to do the same, and other children as well, and other parents.
I love that. Yeah. It's so important. It's all you can do. Honestly, it's like, in my book, I really examine radical ownership of yourself. And I think everybody really needs to radically own their participation in things, but you can never really control what another person around you is going to do. You just have to, you can have your own limits and say, this is a limit or a boundary for me, but it's very interesting, in the world and life and becoming and parenting and marriage and all of those things. It's, I think, one of those things, that's the lesson that has come back again and again to me. It's like, well, you can own you, and you're allowed to own you.
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely. When I was reading your book, I had an epiphany about an area of my life, even today, because they all pop up, right? You think, oh, I've gone around, I can, move past that. Suddenly it comes around in a different form. But I had an epiphany of a business relationship where I felt that the boundaries moved. My boundaries were not as strong as they should have been. And I was reading that and I was thinking, oh, wow, yes, I have let that go. And so I agree totally.
I just
even
think
though I know it, but I just didn't,
It's so funny how we can feel something in our body, and even though we know it's wrong or it's not right, or it's just we're not really in alignment with ourselves on something, sometimes we allow things to happen.
Yes.
And being able to own those things in our life when something isn't serving us, when you're in a business relationship where you need to set a boundary with someone and really be clear on it, like, you're allowed to do that. I think that's one of the most beautiful things that happened to me in my 40s was, I can't control anyone else, but I am allowed to control me.
Yes. And I think that's that evolutionary part of maturing that is really, if we want to embrace it, It's something that I think empowers us, is the first part of our life we're answering all of our conditioning demands of what we're supposed to be and what society has taught us and our families. And suddenly, one day, we wake up and we say, wait a minute, there's something more, there's something different, and I'm not paying attention to it. And I have to begin with me, because the only change, as Gandhi said, is be the change you want to see in the world. We have to start with ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. That radical a bit piece of ownership, I was like, oh, okay, this is cool. I need to write a book about this.
It's good. It's good. And I think that's so important, that we express ourselves no matter what. I mean, I'm not doing anything that was a dream of mine to do. Not one thing. My life 10 years ago was very, very different. I just began following that bouncing ball and responding to it, and it's led me to incredible places that I never ever expected. So I think it's learning to put ourselves out there, which can be very scary, as I'm sure you've experienced too. And
my
as you
gosh,
do things
yes.
that are, yes,
So
for
scary,
sharing who
right?
you are. Yes, like, wait a minute. Yes.
Like the scariest thing I've ever done in my life. I really remember the day of my book launch. I thought I really could just crawl under a rock and die. I'm so scared right now.
Yes, yes, me too. I mean, I have that same thing when I started my blog, and I started writing about all these things I was seeing and my experiences. That I had gone back to get a master's degree in school counseling when I was noticing a lot of things happening in my community and just so much mental distress. And then going to a very elite college to get a master's degree, I was thinking, oh, wow, they don't have it. They're not preparing. They're a commodity, and we're the consumers, and they're pushing us through. And they were so disconnected from what was happening in the world, and it was eye-opening. And so I began writing a blog just talking about it, and that's what got the ball rolling to all the other things that I've ended up doing. Each one very scary, but I kind of close my eyes and jump and think, why am I here? You know, as Mary Oliver says, what do you plan to do with your one wild and precious life? You know, you got to go for it. But also my children, because I want to model for them what it means to be alive and to fully go for life. That pushes me past that fear of
Same for me. Same for me. It was like, okay, I'm not doing this for me. I'm doing this for my daughters, for the next generation. And just put this out there. Don't be afraid. It's okay to have a legacy, because this life is short, you know, and people will say there will always be people that don't agree with you, and that's okay. You're allowed to not agree with my ideas, but you know, it may resonate with one person. If it can help one person, it's worth doing.
I always say that. And my book, Parenting from the Passenger Seat, is not trying to convince anybody to do anything different. It honors whatever your choices are. But it was really written to validate these women and these parents that have this intuitive sense that something's not right. It's kind of like when I read Viktor Frankl's work, and suddenly he gave me words and he gave me a framework for what I felt. And I thought, yes, this is it. And so I had hoped to do that, and really not focusing on outcomes at all. Like, put the book out there. I mean, I haven't really marketed it a ton, just life has taken over, but it's something I thought, well, at least get it out there. And the rest will take care of itself. But my job was to express myself and put it into the world. What the world does with it, I don't know. Not my problem.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. No, you're right. I feel like these books kind of come through you, and it's like you birth them as authors. You know, it's like I don't think the words came from me. I think they came through me when I write. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And suddenly they'll just come fast. I'll be, walking the beach or writing, going to the grocery store, and I'm pulling out receipts, writing notes on them, or you dictate. I know you dictate.
I do. I talk into my phone. I'll just like, my kids will know, oh, Mom, are you writing a book? I'm like, oh yeah, hold on. I'm just talking it into my phone right now.
Yes.
So tell me a little bit. So you work closely with the Viktor Frankl Institute of America, and I think you're a co-founder on that one too?
Yes, I was a co-founder on it. Yes.
Nice.
So
And now, yeah, tell me, how has Frankl's philosophy shaped your personal and professional life?
oh, it's transformed my life. I think it's given me courage, tremendous courage. When I started my blog, I had a friend. I mean, I think that there's synchronicities in life when you align with your authentic self. Suddenly, the people and the situations come in that support the direction you're moving in. So, a friend of mine knew Viktor Frankl's grandson, Alex Vesely Frankl, and he was living in California at the time, even though he's from Vienna. He lives there now. So, and she had told him about my blog. He read it. He loved it. We had a 3-hour lunch. We were talking about, all the views about education that Viktor Frankl had 100 years ago that were, that you can't standardize human beings and push them through a machine, even in the workforce. And so, anyway, so we became friends writing the blog, and then I became an executive producer on the Man's Search for Meaning feature film. And I thought, wow, we need to provide some background of his work that isn't a detailed book for them. He could be a dense writer. His subject matter is written for a different time and can be very difficult for people to read. And so my best friend Maura was 45 years we've been best friends, and she's like, Pam, I love all, Frankl resonated with her too. I'd love to write it with you. And so she and I wrote that, and then we thought, well, let's start an institute. Right now it's a resource center of information about Frankl that's accurate to the family, because there's a lot of stuff out there that is not correct. Like that he went to the concentration camp, came out with the theory. He'd been a doctor, medical doctor, psychiatrist, and neurologist for many, many years, and he worked with suicidal patients. So he had already developed his theory called logotherapy, healing through meaning, and then he lived it in the concentration camps. He saw it was an unwanted laboratory. So the three of us decided we would launch the Viktor Frankl Institute of America to provide resources and information and to see where it goes. So everything with the book was kind of born out of that.
That's amazing. And so yesterday you got a relaunch of this book. Can you give us a quickie? Let's just tell me about what's new, tell me about the book.
Yes. So Viktor E. Frankl and the Search for Meaning, 21 Reflections on Living Life with Purpose. Beacon Press, the director of the publishing house, was in Vienna, and the Frankl family gave her a copy of the book, and that we had called at the time Inspiring Wisdom of Viktor Frankl. And she loved it, and she said, can we buy this and republish it as something that is a gift edition journal that would be something people could treasure. And I mean, it's beautiful. It's got,
It really is.
This, and it's got watermarked pages.
And it's so very similar to the style of The Manager, where you have a chapter and then you have a prompt and you do a little work with it. So it's kind of a little bit of a journal that goes along with it. So you can do your own work while you're reading the book. You work through the book.
Exactly. And I think that the whole point, and we called that a reflection book, and I notice yours has similar questions, is Viktor Frankl wasn't so much about staying inside yourself, analyzing everything you're doing. It was more about contemplation, reflection on your life. But the most important part is to act on it. So we can think all we want about what's going on. We can get angry at different things. We can think of all the things we would have, should, could have done. But really what we need to do is to act on our intuitive sense of where we need to go and what we need to do, because we're being guided by our conscience and we need to trust it. But the most important thing we need to do is act. So the prompts are meant to, as yours are, to get the reader to reflect about how the principles apply to their own lives, and then figure out ways that they might try something, go out in the world and engage with it in a different way. So,
Absolutely. I always say maybe start with something small,
yeah,
volunteer a little bit, or, if there's
yeah,
something that has meaning to you, whether it's, a soup kitchen or whatever you find meaning, wherever you see that the world needs you, volunteer there. Do you love libraries? Where do you see yourself? Where could you just add a little bit of meaning in your life by
yes.
volunteering?
Well, and meaning
It's
is
easy.
he defined it as what is meant. He viewed it as objective, and our free will to respond was subjective. So the meaning is calling to us. It's our responsibility to pull it into reality. And so, and we find it three ways. We find it through the work we do, the
Mhm.
creative works we do, writing a book, films, whatever, the deeds we do. We get it through experiences, nature, beauty, loving another human being, or the last one, when we can't control the situation, and let's say a diagnosis or somebody dies, our attitude that we take, we have the power to express ourselves in the world in a way that aligns with the values of what we want to show and what we want to model. So it really is definitely, we have a lot of opportunity to do that, and we're called to, if we listen again, I think we're so used to listening to what other people tell us we should do or what society says. But when I work with young people, I mentor a lot of young people, I'll say, so what do you do when you lose track of time? What is it that really gets you in the flow? And then maybe that can't be their job. Like, I'm not somebody who says, oh, okay, you like that, you can work. I mean, maybe you have to work a job like my middle daughter does. She works for a corporation, and it's not her favorite thing. I mean, it's fun. She enjoys it enough, but she loves writing, screenplays. She loves doing improv. I'm like, okay, then that's a means to an end. So your job could be a means to an end, a calling, or a profession. But in today's world, as you know, with all the tech
Mhm.
changing how we are living and working and playing and learning, that world is in such upheaval right now that career is a misnomer. What that job might be is a misnomer, but there's such an opportunity for creation. We can do
Yes.
things we couldn't do 10 years ago. You can start a podcast, you can write a book, you can, do so many things. So it just starts, as Rumi said, when you start walking the way appears, but you have to start walking the way. So your suggestion to start going out, volunteering, etc., is very, yes,
Yeah, just dip your toe in it because it really is. It's just getting into a place of action, even if it's a small amount or safe way of being in action. It's just do
hmm,
something and see if
yes,
it might just call to you a little bit more, or if an
yes.
opportunity arises from that experience. You meet a person. That's how my life has been. It's
Oh,
just been
mine too.
very.
Mine too. And you have to be a little uncomfortable. I think one of the things with my b-unbound initiative that I do
Mhm.
is that I work with educators to develop this, and it's really about getting uncomfortable because discomfort is the price of a meaningful life. Susan David said that, but that uncomfortableness has to come from doing these little steps out into the world. Otherwise, we end up with a fragility that they don't want to try
Mhm.
anything new because they don't have that muscle of what it means to be uncomfortable. And it's really important that we go ahead and take that first step, even though we won't know anybody. And I know you have, with your children this too, where they'll say, but
Mhm.
I don't know anybody. I'm like, it's okay. Just
It's
take the
okay.
first day. You will. And developing that strength of character to be able to step into the world as yourself as best you can and
Yes.
allow the discomfort.
Totally. Well, it's the
Yeah.
only way that you become a resilient person is
Oh,
by,
yeah.
it's like a muscle that you have to strengthen, and you do it by doing things that are outside your comfort zone,
Yes. Yeah.
and it's like do a little something a little uncomfortable every day if you can, and you'll just get very resilient, and you'll
Yes.
learn a lot.
Well,
Yeah.
that was my concern with how we're raising kids in this very, very narrow trajectory, or on this very narrow trajectory in school, where they live a theoretical life, but
Hmm.
they're not and it's all adult driven. It's
Hmm.
all guided with bumper rails. And there is not that opportunity for them to go out and explore and be in the community and have different intergenerational relationships that can help them grow. I think we have done a disservice to humanity by not allowing all these unique individuals to really understand that they are unique and that they have something to contribute, and it's their job to go find it. And instead, we're like, well, we got to fit you to this economy, which, by the way, that economy is crumbling and the new one's emerging and we don't know.
Changing. It's very much in a flux. We don't know what we don't know what it's going to look like when the fourth industrial revolution, as things are changing with technology and AI.
We're in it. We're in it. It's not even coming. We're in it.
Yeah.
And so when we think of feeding our children, one of the documentary series I did was called Inside the Machine, about how we feed our children through these mechanistic systems, thinking they'll come out the other end and they'll have the job and be happy. It's not even human life. It doesn't allow us to feel and express and explore and learn how humans learn, which is through relationships and engagement and exploration and discomfort and all of that. So my work is in building the bridges away from those in parallel, because they're a pretty dominant part of our lives, but to create that mycelium in our community that we all energetically support each other, which you did during that COVID when you did the little micro school pod and stepped in. That is what we need to do. And not everybody can do that. But if you have somebody who's doing it, how can you support? How do you encourage? I think that's the power of women historically, was that we pulled together and we did things together. We washed clothes together. We, took care of the kids. Whatever we were doing, we have different opportunities now. But that strength comes from not trying to do everything ourselves, by ourselves, adhering to somebody else's demand of what a successful family is and what, how we have to look out in the community to really be accepted, not to belong, because belonging is showing up as ourselves, but fit in. And I think we're all getting pretty tired of that right now.
I think so too. Yeah. And I think that there's such a disconnect for people. I think that social media has created sort of this artificial sense of belonging in society. But I think now more than ever, people are very lonely.
Yes.
And I think the loneliness is contributing to the mental health problem in the US. And we've never had more people. There's so many people, and yet you're so alone. And I think it's the mechanistic society has kept us so busy, like cogs in a wheel, chasing our tails, that we're not building these relationships and creating these, we need to create more places for us to actually be together in the world, creating more traditions where we're actually together with our friends, our families, our neighbors. Those kinds of things are really what make humans happy. Being these social animals, it's the real social, not social media.
Yes. Well, I think Viktor Frankl, and this has been going on prior to social media, it was just kryptonite, because we were so isolated in our worlds that it had power that it probably normally wouldn't have if we truly were engaged, pursuing, with meaningful pursuits and relationships. Viktor Frankl called it the existential vacuum. So what happens when you can't search for meaning, when you are limited in what you can do? You can always still find meaning, but it creates this vacuum that gets, and you say aggression, it creates, or it can create aggression, depression, and addiction. So the existential vacuum is our world today. And by the way, it happens in welfare societies, and it happens in affluent capitalistic societies, because we are not made to be at equilibrium. Meaning is about tension. There's always something to do. It creates a tension that moves us from who we are to what we can become. So the minute we try and think, oh, okay, I'm there, there's nothing going on, we've lost our purpose. We're here to constantly grow and learn and engage, and there is never a time for us not to do that. So when we try to give it through material means, by either, again, welfare state or capitalistic, it doesn't work. It doesn't work.
Yeah, I know. And I think that as we move forward, there needs to be a level of intention that's set. And I do believe that I would love to see the men be in a leadership position on this, but I really do feel that women are have become very much leaders in our society. And I do think that women need to set the intention of creating intentional relationships, communities, traditions, where we get ourselves, our spouses, and our children involved in real communities and real activities in real life. Because we very much, if we don't do that, I do already see how technology is it is consuming this next generation. It's stealing their time, their motivation, their creativity, and all of us. In not just in the children, I'm seeing it also in the young adults and even in the young parents, where there's such a feeling or a sense that you're connected to community because you're connected on social media. So instead of getting together with people and friends in real life and having a barbecue with your whole neighborhood, you're getting on and you're doom scrolling, for 2 hours.
I think everybody is. I mean,
Yeah.
and this goes back to the only control we have over it, the only control we have is over ourselves, is challenging ourselves not to
Yeah.
get lost in that rabbit hole too. And I think that's
Yes.
where your point to women and community and nurturing each other. I have done many groups of women where we bring them together to support each other in their inconvenient dreams. What did we give up that we didn't do because we were responding to all these things we were supposed to do? What part of ourselves didn't come along with that? And in our society that we've had for a long time, that just it was no, you've got to go and break the board table, and I'm like, no, I don't want to sit at a board table. I want to create something new and different. And that's our opportunity. And a friend of mine, Gretchen Leonard, is coming out with a book in October called Your Second Prime. Does aging suck or do we suck at aging? And so she and I
Love
have
it.
led these groups of these women over 40. And it's been powerful to listen to how many women just really, wow, either couldn't think of something for a moment because they're like, I've never thought about what I would like to do that I haven't had a chance to do, and others who
Yes.
right away could name something that they're interested in doing. And so I think that there's lots that we can do together as women to inspire the change in each other and support each other in doing that. And I agree with you. It's really this shift towards something that is different from the mechanistic, patriarchal, only financial gain is how you're measured society. And that doesn't mean that men can't learn. It doesn't mean that men, they've been trained the way women have been trained, and now
Yeah.
it's not serving us and it's not
Yeah,
serving our
I think they
children.
miss community as much as we do. I think that
Absolutely.
men also need their tribe, and I know women do because
Oh yeah.
we're so verbal, and we do. I'm so happy I have my little office hours group, and we get together every other Friday, and we just honestly, Brendan's like, "What do you guys do?" I'm like, "We talk nonstop for like 4 hours."
Yes.
That's
No, and
what
we
we
need it.
do.
I've always had that. I mean, and even when I was the weird one out, I mean, people were still interested. What are you doing?
Right?
And to have people to bounce ideas off and just find out how left field I really was. And now I'm not. When I put my kids in alternative education, there was only 3 types of schools that were a little bit different from your traditional school, and now there's over 50 different models of ways that we actually have the power to create a different kind of life if we choose to not follow the same trajectories we've been promised would lead to a successful life. So,
Yeah, if you could just really quickly, I know you've been involved with the U-bound. If could you
be
give us
unbound.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, it'd
Yes.
be unbound. How could you
Yes.
tell my moms about this model? It's very interesting.
Yes. So it started with when I was doing these films, kind of highlighting the systems, the inside the machine that we were feeding our kids to, whether it was foster care, and we did 3 foster care, the overprescribing of meds to kids, and education, that there was only one way out. They had to compete with each other and get to a really good school. And so there was an education icon Sir Ken Robinson, who has the #1 TED Talk, Do Schools Kill Creativity? And he was going to be an executive, or he was an executive producer on the film. And unfortunately, he was diagnosed with liver cancer and died very quickly. And so I thought, oh my gosh, I don't want to be involved with films if I can't figure out something in the community to actually guide people to. And so his daughter recommended I talk to Elliot Washer, who had been an educator for over 50 years. And he did public schools with this alternative way of doing schools in underprivileged communities, that 2 days a week, the kids were out in the community pursuing job shadows, internships, volunteering, taking community college based on their interest. And so, and it's public schools, there's over 100 in the US, and there's probably 280 around the world. But
Amazing.
so, but he recognized you can't grow public schools. It just doesn't, the system is so layered that it takes so long to get a school up that he thought we really have to go from outside in. Yes, we need changes from the inside out, and there's so many brave educators, but it also needs to be changed from the outside in by allowing kids after school in youth development programs, even doesn't matter what school they go to. It's for 14 to 24-year-olds, and it's about how we can inspire them to get connected to their community around their interests. So we're partnering with Working Wardrobes here in Orange County. I don't know if you're familiar with them.
Yes, I know them, yeah.
Yes, and I know Bonnie Pullman, she's just a rock star. But so it's about, but parents can do it. I did it with my kids without anything formal, was to connect them around their interests, help find them mentors, tell them to go work. Go find a job. So we all can do it, but it's very, very important. I mean, to remember 3 things. Model, be the role model of you living your own purpose in life and your own search for meaning. 2, honor the unique individuality of every single person, our children included. They are not ours, they are through us. And then the 3rd is get them out, get them connected, let them engage with a broader community, and to learn to listen to their own conscience and trust it and act on it. And again, as they're younger, we do this with scaffolding around them, how we, in b-unbound, it's a technology platform. There's an advisor. And then anybody who becomes a mentor has to go through background checks. If they, so there's safety things that you can put in place, but the main thing is to get the community inspired to be mentors and, share their, it could be also someone who loves knitting or loves fishing. It's not about, we believe that if you start walking the way appears. So they know interests, start there and see where it goes. But we can make time for it by really looking at, do they have to be good at all subjects? Do they really absolutely need to do all this testing? Where are they going? Is sending them straight from high school to college really the best way? So for some kids, very few, it is. They know they want to be this and that's their path. But knowledge without experience cannot be wisdom. Yes. So we need that experiential component for them to discover. And unfortunately, very few kids in college do internships. So they get out with this theoretical understanding of the world and a world that's changing very dramatically that they should be in and a part of to actually figure out how they can contribute to that change. Yes. And so b-unbound is meant to do that, is meant to build the community side of creating those opportunities with adults who say, yes, I'm willing to be an informational interview person because I can't do an internship. Others might say, hey, I'd be happy to do an internship on Saturdays, whatever. It's built by the individuals involved. So there's not this, like school where you have to do it during certain hours and certain time frames. So so we're just building it and figuring out how to do it.
That's so cool. It's just about getting the kids out into the world where they're actually going to end up. That's the idea, is like they're going to end up in the world. So maybe we give them a little bit of experience in the world before we send them out into the world. I like it.
Especially with it changing, like with so much happening.
Yeah.
Every 3.3 months, right? Technology is shifting. So there's
Mm-hmm.
opportunities being created. So them being somewhere, they might say, "Oh, wow, look at that. I'm interested in that." Begin pursuing. But this whole idea that there's going to be a profession or a career that is going to take you all the way through your life is very unlikely because
Yeah.
so much is being changed right now. Even the medical community, the whether they want to go into law. I mean, technology is completely revamping, and a lot of times it's taking the entry level positions out because those are the ones that are easiest to,
Automate using
automate.
technology. That's what we
Yep.
do. Yeah, automation. But it's usually the things people didn't really want to do anyway. It wasn't like jobs that were people like, oh my God, I love this job of pushing papers around, you know?
Well, but it's a
But
stepping stone. So
it
it really
was, yeah,
wasn't the
exactly.
job, is it got them
Yes.
into something to learn about
Yes.
themselves and to figure out. And so I
Yeah.
agree. The
Yeah. Yes.
the
The
the world's
creative, the
changing.
upper level things are still going to be there. The creative, like there's no substitution for human creativity, and
Mm-mm.
humans will be the overseers of this technology. You know, we're still the best overseers of the so far,
So
the
far.
best
So far, maybe so
so
far,
far.
but it depends on what it is. But it goes
I
back to, does that at the end of your life, do you want a robot and technology surrounded in a beautiful by yourself, or do you want relationships and
no, I want
humans
real
and
people.
so it's this
Yes,
balance that we
yes,
need to give attention to. I wrote a blog called AI Can't Find Meaning, but We Can,
yes,
about how AI is just the synthesis of known information, and it makes projections off of that in these large language models, as you know. I don't, but
yes.
the other part about tapping into this field of possibilities, only humans can do that. That is what we're wired to do, is to get those hits that you and I get, and we kind of follow them in this crazy
Yeah,
way. That
yeah.
is
I call
distinctly
them
human.
downloads. I feel like they're just like these spiritual downloads that humans can
Yes,
get that I just don't think computers can get. But I don't know. Maybe they can prove me wrong. But it seems
yeah,
like humans are still very connected to something much bigger. Our
yes.
intuition and our ability to connect with something much bigger than us. I think
Yes,
there's
and
can't be
cultivate that.
replaced.
I think that
Yes.
the danger of relying, you lose it or I mean, use it or you lose it. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, the more we rely on the technology, I found this writing my new book where
Yeah.
it was like, okay, I did a speech and I thought, okay, I'll take the transcript and I'll have AI help me summarize it and I'll plop it in a few places. And oh my gosh, I couldn't flow. It wasn't
No.
there. I had no flow. I couldn't remember what was that again. And so I just tossed the whole thing out and now I'm doing my download. But it's the process that's so
Yes.
important for humans to do, is to
Yeah.
go through that process of critical thinking. And it's I use AI as, do not rewrite, but suggest edits for me, or,
Right.
so I use it as a tool, but
Yeah.
the actual art of writing is my expression and my connection to my higher self and what I need to put in the world. Yeah.
Absolutely. And so I love to ask this question. What AI do you love to use? What do you use every day? Is there anything that you're using
Just
every
chat
day?
GPT.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
really, it's like, how long do I bake chicken? I mean, I
Me
use it
too.
for all the most basic things. And then I really challenge myself on some of the other stuff to say, can I figure this out?
Yeah.
Can I figure this out? So, and it was a really good experience for me to go through the writing exercise and realizing, and then MIT came out with a study that said the kids that used it to write papers couldn't remember 3 months later what they'd
Sure.
written because we're so used to that answer. And again, knowledge is great, but knowledge is only one component of wisdom. And you
Yeah,
need
you're right.
experience, you need engagement, you need all of these things so that you can give a context to
Hmm.
what you're learning. And as this world is changing, we do a disservice to keeping kids locked behind walls and in adult organized activities where they're not out, watching, listening, and a part of the transformation that's happening as it's happening, right?
Yes.
And that's because the future is either you're a creator or you're a consumer,
Yes, that's it.
unfortunately.
That's
And
it.
there's Full-time jobs, right now, the full-time job for people under 35 is 2.8 years. There's a gig economy growing at 3 times as fast, or freelance, whatever you want to call it. And then there's a sharing economy. And this generation will weave in between all three of those for their income. It is not the job becomes what dictates your life, which is actually an advantage for
Yeah.
us to make different choices. When I got out of college and worked, it was 9 to 5 in a building, couldn't do anything else. It was very strict hours and, plus overtime with projects or whatever. Now, oof, I have kids I mentor that have left their full-time jobs to do something part-time while they explore some other businesses they want to build. And it's an exciting time. We didn't have that way back when. So but it's a scary prospect because we want safety and security and we want certainty. There is no certainty, there is no safety, and there is no security. And once we acknowledge that really, there's a Hopi saying, about where's the safest place? There's no safe place, there's only safe people. This is why it's so important that we're connected in a community and that we know people, but the people know us, and that's the advantage of getting kids out, where they get to be known as something other than a grade or a test score or performance, and those people, they know people and the people know them, because 80% or more of the jobs are who you know right now.
It's so
Because the
true. Even,
algorithms
yep,
knock all they'll take you and say, oh, boom, 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 boom.
yep,
But if you know someone,
yep. That's right.
that
That
could
really
get your foot
is.
in the door.
That's what I always tell them. You got to work your network.
Yep.
Work your network. If you're looking for a job, who do you know that knows someone who can help you? Because it really is. Even Tomahawk. Tomahawk came about because of the relationships that my husband and I had from our other company. And it's, it really is relational. It's who do you know? Who can
Yep.
help you grow these things? Who's going to build with you? Who's going to help you build? Who
Yes.
needs you? Who needs you in their organization? So,
Yes. And
so right.
when
Yeah.
you're young, it's about pursuing your interests. So we start with the kid's interest. Who do
Yeah.
we know? I had a friend who was talking about her son loved cars. Oh, just
Yeah.
cars. But today it's different kinds of things. And he was 14 or something, so he couldn't really go get a job. And she happened to be at a gas station. She said, "Do you need anybody to help?" And he's like, "Oh my gosh, I haven't had kids apply in 13 years. I would love to have someone here. I could show them how we tinker with cars." I mean, you follow the interest of the child. That is very, very critical. It's not like smushing. If the job's a mean to an end, like let's say they want to buy something, go get a job, then they can, flip burgers or whatever. And that's a good experience too, but that's not because it's allowing them to pursue their interests. So again, you can do something that allows something else. But I think it's really important right now that we make sure our children are out in the community, learning to connect, not with mommy or daddy next to them saying whatever. We can certainly help facilitate, but this is why we need our tribes, right? Who do we
Yes.
know? I need somebody who knows welding. I need somebody who's a lawyer that can talk to my kid about what it means to be a lawyer. And it's changed.
Yes.
When one daughter did it about fashion, she talked to somebody who was really high up. She went, "Ooh, mom, that's not what I thought. I do not want that role." And so she ended up doing something different, but we can learn a lot, and it's helping them, develop the muscles to go out and actually put themselves out because they want it. It's that meaningful tension that
Yes.
is, we don't want them not to have tension. We want
Yeah.
them to have self-chosen tension. The tension we do
Yes.
in schools and in sports teams are tension for performance that's not about them. They're trying to please often,
Mm-hmm.
and they're trying to get achievement and accolades. It's not about, wow, I am someone who can really do something here and I'm pulled to do it. And we need that in our world. We
Yeah,
need
we
that.
really do. Yeah, we really do. It's so nice when you feel almost magnetically connected with,
Hmm.
I must do this thing. For me, it was writing. I was like, whoa, this is
Yeah,
like
me too.
something that I absolutely have to do. And when it kicked in, it was like there was no not doing it. It was
Hmm.
going to happen. And for me, I feel having that feeling, it was like really, my daughter and I play with magnets in the bathtub, and so I'm like, oh, check this out. Like this one, watch it. It's going to run away. It's running away. And then sometimes you put them together and they, man, they go right to it. And I feel like when you find that thing, if you start looking, you got to look for the things that start pulling you towards them.
And listen to yourself. I think one of my favorite
Yes.
quotes, and I use it all the time, is by Howard Thurman. Don't do what the world needs. Do what makes you come alive,
Yes.
because what the world needs is people who come alive. So imagine our communities if they didn't have this mechanism. I'm going to work so I can do this, I can do that. We end up being this very robotic life that it feels very meaningless, and versus being on the edge and trying stuff and being in community. And it doesn't have to be big. It can be, I love to bake. I'm going to learn to bake. I'm going to share it with my neighbors. I'm going to take a cooking class so I can, but it's something that, because we need that energy of aliveness in our
Yes.
communities.
Yes.
Not the fear, not the afraid of taking a step or showing ourselves, but really, no, it's just being alive and energetic and interested in what we're doing and
Yes.
being willing to share that with people.
And finding the adventure of life again.
Yeah,
I'd love to see people wake up and just kind of find a little bit more adventure in their life. We
yeah,
don't have to be living such a mundane existence. I'd like to
right.
see people a little more fired up, find a little bit of adventure instead of, oh my gosh, I have to climb that mountain. Could you find something that you're like, I get to do this, I get to climb this mountain?
Yes. No, and it's true. And I think that's something that, oh, I need it to be huge. I need a lot of money. No, you don't. You can create it. The schools that Big Picture Learning are in underprivileged communities. And these kids, the ones that they were doing this program called BP Living, which was about growing food and how to use, you could do that in your backyard with a couple seeds. You could learn how to
Yes.
do that in your neighborhood. There's so much opportunity and need to rectify what we've done in the world, that to bring back the health and well-being, that there's plenty to do, and it's just about
Yes.
engaging with
Yeah. Whatever
whatever
it
ideas.
is, it
Yes,
is.
yes,
It's like you take a few minutes to get to know yourself and
yeah,
stop being so distracted, get to know you, and then figure out what you can do, what's going to fire you up and what's going
hmm,
to get other people excited too. It's like I think we
yeah.
just have to get people excited about this
Well,
opportunity of
and it's our
life that they
heart.
have. Yes.
Hmm.
Yeah.
It's from the heart, not the head. Our
Yeah.
head has two hemispheres, boom, 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 boom. Here, we know. Just put your hand on your
Mhm.
heart. You get that feeling. We know, I knew it. I knew it. We say that all the time, right?
Yep.
And yet, that's what we know. So when we begin analyzing it too much, it takes us on a different trajectory.
Exactly. That's when your head starts telling you, oh, but you can't do that. You couldn't possibly learn how to make sourdough bread. I mean, that's for someone else. Who has time for that?
Yes,
Maybe
yes,
you can if you want
yes.
to.
It's so true. Not me. I'm like, I can't. My daughter's like talking and naming the starter. I'm like, what is that? So
I
it's,
know. It was a COVID thing. All the neighbors had sourdough going, but
yes.
I couldn't keep the thing alive. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. I have
No,
too many
me either.
people to take care of.
The sourdough had to go. Yeah. No, I
The
totally,
starter
and
didn't
I
make
know.
it.
I know. My daughter left it at my house and I was like, what? She goes, Mom, you didn't feed it? I'm like, what? What am I supposed to feed? I had no idea. It was so funny, but yes.
It's a pet.
So
It's
it's
basically
a
a pet.
pet.
It's a
Yes. Yes.
pet. So I want to get into just a little bit. You executive produced this documentary that's about grandmothers who treat
Yes.
depression from park benches. I just
Yes.
love this idea. Can you tell me a little bit about this? This is so cool.
Yes, this is so cool. And
Yeah.
actually, the documentary just got chosen for the UN Film Fest. So I'm super excited. And Africa is going to be airing it. But so the story is of a psychiatrist in Zimbabwe. There were 16 million people. He was the only public psychiatrist. I think there was only 12 psychiatrists for 16 million people, and the highest depression rates, highest anxiety and suicide rates in all of Africa. So it says a lot. And he was noticing this, and he talked to the ministry about this. They're like, do something. And he said, well, I have an idea, what can I do? And he's like, well, you can't use our facilities, you can't use the nurses, but we have 14 volunteer grandmothers. And he was like, oh, and he has a TED Talk that's fabulous, Why I Train Grandmothers to Treat Depression. And basically what he did is he began working with the grandmothers, but the real twist is the grandmothers taught him. They were the ones, you can't talk to people like that. This whole westernized vocabulary, they don't know that. They just need connections. So they began creating this program where the grandmothers would go on park benches, and they would, people would come and they would, help them, open their mind, which is similar to Viktor Frankl, is uplift them and strengthen them to make a decision about one thing. And so he has a book, Dixon Chibanda's book about the Friendship Bench. And the story is just beautiful. So now, because he was a clinical doctor, he did studies. So now there's, hundreds of studies or maybe 100 studies about showing an 80% reduction in depression, a 60% improvement of life in life, no meds, from the community connecting. So the grandmothers would talk to the people, then they would go into peer circles and help each other. So the grandmothers would say there's poverty and there's poverty of the mind. We can't treat poverty, but we can treat poverty of the mind. So now there's been, and it's spread to all over Africa, it's spread to different countries, Vietnam, there's a couple here in the US, Canada. And so there's been like 3,000 grandmothers and lay people trained, and they've helped 750,000 people with those kind of clinical results. So it just shows you the power of community, the power of connection to heal, to heal that loneliness, to heal that validity that you are worthy and that you can be seen, and that in connection you can contribute. So it's not about being helped. When they go in these circles, they're helping each other. So it's contributing and receiving. And I think that's one of the things, again, in our systems and mechanistic way of life. It's transactional. We're going to solve this for you. No. There's a bigger context, and we need to be responsible for stepping up into our lives and what we do. But it's a beautiful, I'm trying to do the feature film. I've got a great screenplay, and
I love it. I think that it would be so powerful. And I just think that I always worked with the elderly. Since I was a little kid, I've worked with the elderly. I've always just had a real heart for it. And I feel like everyone in society is looking to make meaningful connections and to be meaningful members of society. And I love how this enlists the grandmothers, who are often forgotten, and often not seen as meaningful members of society in our society here, and enlisting them into a very important work that they're just called to, and probably were doing thousands of years ago. This probably was very much a part of how, older women were contributing to society. I just think it's the most beautiful thing.
Yes, I do too. It's such a privilege. I mean, Dixon is a friend. I'm an advisor to him on some of the things he's doing. It's inspiring because talk about meaning with just he knew he had to do something, and it's really, really powerful that he just realized that, and he tells about it in the TED Talk, that he was in Harare, the capital, and there was a young girl he was treating for years that was a couple hours away. They had to take the bus. Anyway, she ends up committing suicide, and he was like, what happened? I thought she was doing well. Why didn't you bring her to me? And they said, we didn't have the $15 bus fare to get her to you. And he said, this is crazy. I can't expect people to come to me. I've got to get out in the communities. And that's when the grandmothers, became the idea of how we could facilitate this connected community where people live, in the parks, on the benches.
I just absolutely love it. I love
I
it
do
because
too.
I think with it's the most people we've ever had on the planet, and I think it's probably the most lonely that individual people have been on Earth as
Oh
well.
yeah,
And I think,
because
whatever we can do to make people feel more connected to one another, I just think that this is a movement I'd love to see more of. I'd love to see
hmm
this in my neighborhood.
yes.
This is
Well, we can
beautiful.
do it. We can do it.
Yeah.
He now is doing a master class where he's teaching people how to do it. I mean, your
That's
couch
amazing.
can be a bench. I mean, it's really
Yes.
about learning the principles of being there for each other in our communities, which have nothing to do with technology. And I think it's that responsibility that we've turned over to these transactional systems that has been really detrimental to who we are. And the number of people on the planet is less important than how we care for ourselves and how we can feed ourselves. We throw a ton of food away, and the
Yes.
kind of food we process is not the food that we need to be eating. So, how do we do that? I mean, there's ways to do vertical gardens now, there's ways to do hydroponics. I mean, there's all hydroponics. There's so many ways now that we can care for ourselves and contribute. The sharing economy is huge. So we
Yes.
have ways of doing this. How do we pull it all together? But it takes people saying, well, I'm not going to just rely on who's president or what that company is going to do. I need to play a role. So what do I feel called to do? And see what
Yeah.
happens.
It's
Yeah.
about, yeah, and about getting real intentional about the future of humanity. How can we do this better? How can we set an intention as humanity to say
hmm
we're going to do it better? We know what we messed up with, and we know we can do it better. And now we have technology, so it's like we can definitely do it better. Technology
We
could
can.
probably help us do it better if we just decided that's what we were going to do with it.
Yeah, and it's paying attention to those pings. I mean, I was
Yeah.
at a barbecue, so I started doing this series with the people who were producing Man's Search for Meaning, and we did this documentary series about, what was happening to how the systems and the machine-like approach to humanity was affecting mental health in youth. And my brother-in-law, my former husband's brother, was saying, "Oh, Pam, I'm going to be involved in a film project too." I'm like, "Really? What film project?" He said, "Oh, it's about a psychiatrist in Zimbabwe who trains grandmothers." And I said, "Oh my gosh, is it Dixon Chibanda?" Because I had seen his TED talk. And so here comes that ping. So I have
Mhm.
nothing to do with nothing. And I'm like, what do you need? Is there a way I can participate or help? And he's like, yes. And so off we ran, and that's how I got involved, and then began working with Dixon and helped facilitate his book getting written, and then the book, it just, away
That's
it went.
amazing. That's
Yeah, but it,
amazing. Yeah, when you're
yeah.
cold, it's amazing how it's the pings and the connections, like getting connected to you. I know that that's a part of me staying on my author's path, finishing my next
Yes.
book. And, it's funny how, when the student is ready, the master appears.
Yes, and the master knows that the student will leave when the student is proficient and is beyond what the master can teach. So that's a more extended poem that we have to understand with our children, that yes, we can be there to teach them and release them, but once they get their wings, we have to allow them to move out in the world and share their light, because that is what we need. Everybody sharing their light, and struggles will be a part of it. That's why we need support networks. We're never going to escape guilt, suffering, or death. And once we acknowledge that, it's how do we move through? We don't live in utopia. We're not going to be in utopia. How do we survive together? Not survive, thrive in
Yes,
being in our humanness. And we've got a lot of work to do. So I hope
we
that your
really do.
viewers are interested in being a part of the solution by sharing who they are with what they can, and listening to themselves, and doing their own search for meaning, and respecting that their children are through them and meant to be out in the world. And we need to help them understand how to get a little bit uncomfortable, bit by bit, until they trust themselves. And because they're needed, we're all needed. We're all
We're all
needed.
needed. Yeah, every human is so unique and so needed for I believe we've all been called to the planet just in the right time, the right when the planet needs us. But we just have to figure out how we've got to start figuring out who we are, making enough time to listen to ourselves, and then, and get into action. Just like you said, people can grab your book. Your book looks amazing. The place to start and work through, and it's on Amazon and it's everywhere. Everywhere books are sold.
It's everywhere. Yeah.
As of yesterday, the new one.
And challenge the standardization of all us and through our healthcare systems, through our insurance systems, through our children, through the education systems. We cannot be standardized. We cannot be molded, and we can't be personalized. Somebody else, well-meaning is the opposite of meaning. Well-meaning is, oh, here's my values. This is going to work for you. Meaning is, I honor that you have your own human spirit, your own guide, and I'm going to be here next to you as you explore it in the world through ups and downs, because we need the ups and downs. So it's really an exciting time to be alive. And when we cannot change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. I'll leave you with that Viktor Frankl quote.
I love that quote. Good. I was just about to ask you what your one quote you live by is. You beat me to it. Pam, thank you so much for this beautiful conversation and for the meaningful work that you're doing to help all of us as parents, as women, as humans, connect more deeply with who we are and what matters most to us. If today's episode resonated with you, I highly recommend checking out Pam's books. And then you can learn more at pamroyblog.com. And as always, I'm Aimee Rickabus, and this is The Manage Her. If you love this episode, share it with a fellow mom, a mentor, or a purpose-driven leader in your life. And remember, the work you do, especially the unseen work, is powerful, it's leadership, and it is legacy. Bye, girls.